Welcome to the Freediving lectures, designed for anyone who wants to improve their freediving in a calm and structured way. In this video, I'm talking about one of the most important, but also one of the most subtle topics in the no-fins technique, the timing. Or in other words, the coordination between arm stroke, kick, and glide phase. As in all the videos of this lecture series, we will go into great detail and cover everything step by step. Hi, I'm Stefano Scaramuzza, freediving and swimming coach. Together with my wife, Bianca Sanyang, we founded the freediving and yoga school Infinite Love. As a former competitive breaststroke swimmer and Swiss national record holder in constant weight no fins, I've specialized in teaching people how to freedive without fins. In these lectures, I share my professional insights into freediving, covering technique, mindset, and training. The lectures are free and open to anyone. The material is based on my experience in swimming, freediving, and teaching, and it also reflects the current knowledge of these two sports. You can use these videos as a reference for your own training, for teaching, or to simply satisfy your curiosity. But as always, remember that this is just a video and it cannot replace a coach. Only a trained coach can see what you need exactly in this moment to progress efficiently and safely. This depends, of course, also on your goals, your experience, and your fitness level. In the end of the video, I will talk more about coaching opportunities for you. This is the 5th video in the no-fins technique breakdown series, where we talk only about the technique in no-fins freediving. In the previous videos, I gave you an introduction on how you can train the no-fins technique, and I introduced to you the 4 pillars of the no-fins technique. The first pillar was the body position, the second, the arm stroke, and the third, the leg kick. So now you know how to do all those things individually, but how do we put all of that together? How do we coordinate the arm stroke, the kick, and the glide phase? That's where the timing comes in, and that's what this video is all about. A good timing is like shifting into the right gear in a car. It will make you drive at your maximum efficiency. In this video, I will show to you first how to do a good timing, and then I'll show you the most common corrections that I give to freedivers that I work with. Then we come to the part where I give you some deeper insights, and in the end, I will show you some exercises that you can do by yourself to practice your timing. So the timing is one of the most important skills in the no-fins technique, and it's often overseen, especially by new freedivers. But what do I mean exactly by timing? The timing brings together everything that you learned in the previous video. That is the body position, which includes the glide phase, the arm stroke, and the leg kick. It's the art of knowing exactly when to do the arm stroke, when to do the kick, and how long to glide in the streamlined position and in the glide position with arms down. And it also includes the intensity, so how much energy do I invest in each arm stroke and kick. Freediving without fins, as well as breaststroke swimming, are both extremely sensitive to the timing. You could have a perfect arm stroke and kick and a beautiful streamlined technique, but if the timing is off, you might still struggle a lot to advance and consume way too much energy and oxygen. But if you know how to hit the sweet spot in your timing, it's like a puzzle coming together and you will just fly through the water. What makes it also important to be in control of your timing is that your timing will actually vary throughout the dive. This depends, of course, on your dive strategy, but also on which stage you are in the dive. So, for example, in the beginning of a CNF dive, just after your duck dive, you might have short glide phases, but move with a higher intensity. And the closer you get to the free fall, the longer your glide phases will become, and the less intense your arm stroke and kick will be. I will not go into more detail about how to structure your dive, because I will cover this in another video about the dive strategy. There is no exact formula for the timing. It's again one of those things for which you need to build an intuition over a long time of regular practice. Like with many aspects of swimming, and I talked about this already a lot in the previous videos, you will have to build a feel for it. But I can still explain to you all the technical details of the timing, and in the end of the video I will also show you some exercises that you can do to practice the timing yourself. Alright, let's start with the basics. When to do the arm stroke and when to do the kick. If you have questions regarding the technique of the arm stroke and the kick, check out my previous videos. Let's start from the streamlined position. So legs together, arms up. Also here, if you have questions regarding the streamlined position, you can check out the previous video. So we are in streamlined position and the arm stroke happens alone. That means nothing else is moving, only the arms. Remember to keep the body in streamline also during the arm stroke. So don't just ignore the rest of the body. I talked about that also in the video about the body position. Then at the end of the arm stroke, we are in the glide position with arms down. Also this position is explained in the body position video. So we finished our arm stroke, and with the propulsion that we got from that arm stroke, we want to glide as much as we need. I will talk more about gliding also later in the video. After your glide, we start with the arm recovery and leg recovery at the same time. So we bend the elbows, the knees and the feet at the same time. So imagine that you're getting smaller like an inchworm or like an accordion. We bend everything together and then we extend everything together at the same time. So I will show you again. We are in the glide position with arms down. We recover the arms and legs at the same time. And then we kick at the same time and we extend our arms at the same time and we come back into streamlined position. Once we are in streamlined position, again, we try to glide as much as we need. So I just told you that the extension of the arms into streamline and the kick happen at the same time. This is like a rule of thumb that is easy to remember. But if we look at it very closely, it's actually not exactly at the same time. The extension of the arm happens just an instant before the kick finishes. So it's more like ta-ta rather than all together ta. This time difference is actually very small. So if you're not sure about it, just try to do it at the same time and mostly it comes naturally the right way. But also make sure that you don't do the kick too late, so that you do the full recovery of the arms and only then you start with the kick. And also don't do the kick too early, so that you're done with the kick but you're still recovering with the arms. So as I suggested, try to do it at the same time. During the recovery, so when we bring our arms and legs up, we almost come to a standstill because we are moving legs and arms against the direction that we want to go. Don't let this distract you if it feels that you're slowing down too much during that phase. But that's the main reason why we do the recovery of arms and legs at the same time and also rather quick. So don't spend too much during this movement, but do it rather quick and snappy. And also with a proper technique, so keeping the knees together, the arms and hands close to the body to reduce drag as much as possible. I talked about this more in the previous video. So again, during the recovery, we don't want to spend too much time in this position, but rather quickly go back into streamline position. And once we're back in streamline, we glide as much as we need. So remember, we have two glide phases. One glide phase is in streamline position, and one glide phase is in the glide position with arms down. The glide phases are very important in our dive. Think about it. When we glide, we get free distance. So without doing anything, we are moving forward. So we want to maximize those glide times to be as efficient as possible. Of course, at some point during the glide, we slow down too much and we need to make the next move before we accumulate too much inertia. So we need to hit that sweet spot of not moving too early and not too late. You can slowly build up an intuition for that sweet spot by doing the exercises that I will show you in the end of the video. Generally, to build a feel for your speed underwater, it helps to use as many reference points as possible. So you can look at the rope moving in front of you, or the floor of the pool. You can feel the water on your skin, so on the feet, on the hands, on the neck, or on the face. And sometimes you can even hear the flow of the water around your ears. Before we go to the part of the video where I show you some deeper insights of the timing, I will show you some common corrections that I give to freedivers that I work with. A common mistake that I see is that people don't glide enough when they are in streamline position. This glide phase doesn't always have to be very long, as I will show you later in the video, but most of the time people could glide just a little bit more and save some more energy. Sometimes I even see people completely forgetting about the glide phase. So they are up here and then they start already the arm stroke while the kick is still on the way. And then you end up in this awkward position that basically takes away the complete effect of the kick and slows you down too much. This happens usually because of rushing too much with the arms. And this has not only the negative effect that it takes away your glide and the effect of your kick, but also you're not reaching enough up and you forget about the catch. What I also see often is that people don't glide enough in the glide position with arms down. It doesn't happen that much as in the streamline because it comes a bit more natural to glide in that position. The opposite can also happen, so that people glide too much. This doesn't happen often, but when I see it, it usually happens just after the duck dive, when we actually need a bit higher frequency and shorter glide times. The duration of your glide phase actually varies throughout your dive depending on your strategy. But there are so many factors involved in that, so I will cover them in another video. Also, I often see people doing the recovery too slow. So they spend too much time in this position, which creates a lot of drag and slows you down unnecessarily. And sometimes I see people forgetting the part of the body that is not moving. This happens mostly during the arm stroke, so that we forget to keep the rest of the body streamlined. But keep in mind that the glide phases are like small breaks in your dive that you can use for a micro relaxation where you can save some oxygen. Especially on long or deep dives, we can save a lot of oxygen by always focusing on relaxation during each glide phase. This has of course to be a fine balance between relaxation but also not losing body form and not losing streamline. I'm talking more about this in the introduction video and also in the video about the body position. Alright, we now come to the part of the video where I share some deeper insights about the timing. The first thing that I want to mention is that before you go into too much detail about practicing the timing, it's good to have already some basic knowledge of the technique, like a good body position, a good kick and a good arm stroke. You shouldn't be distracted by trying to figure out how to do the arm stroke or the kick while you practice the timing. But of course, your technique also doesn't have to be perfect. When specifically practicing the timing, it's actually even okay to forget a little bit about the technique and focus much more on the feel, the flow, and the rhythm of your swimming. Another thing that I want to mention is that the arm stroke and the kick are equally important. But for most people, one or the other is usually stronger. So in your dive strategy, you can choose a timing that favors your strength. If, for example, you are a strong kicker, you can glide longer in the streamlined position, or if your arm stroke is stronger, you can glide longer in the glide phase with the arms down. However, for a long time strategy, it's of course advisable to balance the things out and work on your weakness. I want to mention one more thing about the glide times. As I previously mentioned, we want to maximize our glide times. We don't want to initiate our arm stroke or kick too early and therefore interrupt our glide phase too soon. This maximum glide duration, however, depends on the discipline. So if you're doing CNF or DNF, it depends on your dive strategy and also on which stage you are in the dive. So for example, in a dynamic dive, you are aiming for long glides, or in a CNF dive, like I said before, in the beginning of the dive, just after the duck dive, you're aiming for short glides. Closer to the free fall, you're aiming for longer glides. Not only can you vary the glide time during your dive, but also the intensity. So how much power do you use for an arm stroke or a kick? So for example, at the beginning of a CNF dive, you will need more intensity in your arm stroke and kick, and later a little bit less. But then, after the turn, you might need a higher frequency, so shorter glide times, but not necessarily the same intensity that you had just after the duck dive. All of this, so the variation of your glide time and the variation of your intensity throughout the dive, is part of your dive strategy and will be covered in another video. The point I want to make here is that you need to be in control over your glide times and your intensities. So you need control over your timing. To gain control over these variables and to build an intuition and a feel for the water, you need to spend a lot of time in the water practicing. I will show you some exercises that you can do to practice your timing. The goal of the exercises that I'm going to show you now is to make you play as much as possible with all the different involved parameters, such as different glide times, different intensities, different speed, and so on. The goal is to develop a feeling and control of your timing so you can consciously vary it depending on your needs. As I mentioned before, during those exercises, it's okay to forget a little bit about the perfect technique and to focus much more on the flow, the feeling, and the rhythm. One more thing before we start with the exercises. In one of the exercises, we will count the number of complete stroke cycles that we do in one lap in the pool. An easy way to count complete stroke cycles is to count 0 when you push from the wall in streamline position. So you push from the wall, you're in streamline position, and this we count as 0. Then we do our arm stroke and our kick, and the next time that I'm back in streamline position, I count 1. And then again, the next time I'm in streamline position, I count 2. Counting like this is easy because we don't have to get confused by counting individual arm stroke or kicks. We simply count every time we reach a new streamline position. And by the way, you can use the same counting technique also for depth. So when you do your duck dive and your hands are pointing down the first time, you count 0. And then every time you reach again streamline position, you just add 1. For the surface swimming exercises, use a snorkel and wear no wetsuit so you can nicely feel the water. In the first exercise, simply do the complete no fins movement on the surface while keeping the head in the water. Swim slow until you're comfortable doing all the movements. Pay attention to your glide phases. Feel how you glide after the arm stroke and after the kick. Feel the water gliding on your skin and observe the bottom of the pool to get a feeling of your speed. Make sure your movements are smooth and fluid. Once you're comfortable, you can increase the speed and intensity of your movements a little bit. Also, once you're comfortable, you can pay more attention to the technique of the arm stroke, kick, and body position and feel how everything comes together. Here, we practice long glide phases. After every arm stroke and kick, stay in your glide position until you count to 5. It may feel a bit awkward in the beginning, but you need to get used to long glide phases. You will see that you still have some speed even after counting to 5. Remember, it's the kick that gives you the power to glide in streamline position. As a variation of the exercise, you can make it a challenge to reach the other side of the pool with the minimum amount of cycles. For that, you need to add more power to the arm stroke and kick, focus strongly on the body position, and exaggerate the glide phase. See if you can make it in less than 6 or even less than 4 cycles for 25 meters. In this exercise, we do the opposite than before. Try to move quickly and have almost no glide phases. This helps to get used to short glide phases while avoiding rushing. So even though you move quickly, make sure that you always go into the proper glide positions, even though you just stay there for a split second. As a variation, you can make it a challenge to reach the other side of the pool as quick as possible. For this, you need to increase the intensity. This exercise combines everything that we learned so far. Imagine the 25-meter pool is a 25-meter deep dive. So start the lap with short glide phases and medium to high intensity. Then, with every cycle, gradually increase the glide times and decrease the intensity. So when you reach the end of the pool, you are at low intensity with long glides. And if this was a real deep dive, you would be ready to start the free fall. It will take you a few attempts until you have full control of the timings and the transitions are smooth. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in personal coaching, you can reach us through the Infinite Love website. We offer in-person and online coaching. Together, we'll work on a training program for you with exercises tailored specifically for your needs, no matter if you're new to the sport or already diving deep. Alright, take care and see you in the next video.